episode 2 of what we've now called Tech Talk, apparently. Great to have people listening again, and thank you very much, everyone who's sent through some feedback and has liked and subscribed already. It's great to get that feedback from you, and we do open it up to people to give us their feedback as we progress this forward. As you can see, we have flashy new graphics this week, and we will continue to try and improve things over the coming weeks. Also, Christmas appears to have arrived at Heliocentrix in the last week as well. So today we want to talk a bit about some news from the last week. It's been a big week in AI across the globe with a few changes, and then we just want to do a bit of a deep dive, I suppose, or a quick introduction, I suppose, probably is more appropriate, for tagging in Teams. So, moving on, this week we have updates from OpenAI, from Google and from Microsoft. But to start off with, Gemini 3, which is Google's own AI model that's built into Android and Google products and services, they had a really big update last week, which has really surprised everybody.
Yes, I mean, I think the biggest thing from this, so they've released a new version of their foundation model. So you may have heard people talking about Gemini 3. Alternatively, you may have heard people talking about Nano Banana as well. So Gemini 3 being the base model that they've released as an updated version, which powers all of their AI interactions at Google. So that's a new model. It's a lot more powerful. There's people getting really good results from it. But I think the biggest thing is the image generation. So that's the Nano Banana, as I mentioned earlier. You might know that name. They released the first version of Nano Banana a few months ago now.
So
3 or 4 months ago. And it was leaps and bounds ahead of everything else at the time. People were very impressed with how good it was at following instructions, because previously when creating images, whilst they were good, there was problems with the models following specific instructions, but Nano Banana was very good at that. And the new updated version has become even more powerful. It seems to be especially good at putting text onto images, which has been a notable problem for all image generation.
Oh, it's been amazing, actually, how bad the text has been on images. Who knew that was something that's really complicated to do?
It seems like it should be so simple, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, already you've been playing around trying to create a few infographics I've seen, and hopefully we may be able to show a few of those next week. They're not quite up to our standards just yet, but I think that's more down to our ability to prompt correctly than it is necessarily down to the engine.
Yes, but yeah, I've been really impressed with it so far.
Well, Gemini 3, I think last week I saw you were showing me you managed to create a mini game on your phone just by going into the app and doing as a one shot.
Yes, yeah, so I've got a Google Pixel phone, so I get access to Gemini directly on my phone, and I got it to create a game in the space of about a minute. And it was just a little mouse going around a maze getting directed by me to find some cheese. It was incredible. It worked perfectly from the first time. It was creating new mazes every time. It was, really impressive.
It's going to be really interesting to see how this develops over the next few months. But OpenAI also then, obviously, they're not going to be beaten by Google. So the day after Google announced the big Gemini 3 updates, OpenAI start talking about their models, and they released a couple of new models, GPT 5.1 Max and Pro, which have more specific use cases, potentially around research and prompts that need to run for a longer time. And so they've got better reasoning, as it's described.
Yeah, so I think they're claiming that their prompts can now run for an entire day, reasoning over thousands of documents and things to provide answers.
I hate to think what that would cost in the case of token usage, which is how all these things happen in the background. Now, because of the deal with Microsoft and OpenAI, we can only hope that at some point we will see 5.1 models appearing inside Copilot. As we mentioned previously on some of our training, I'm not sure if we mentioned it last week, but Microsoft Copilot is becoming sort of a bridge between the OpenAI models, ChatGPT, basically GPT models, and Anthropic, who is a competitor, and their models, hopefully picking the best of breed. So I really hope we'll see that improve over the next few months and things get a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, and I think if for anybody who may be getting a bit confused by the lingo between what models are and the companies, OpenAI, Gemini, Google, I think next week we're going to try and do a bit of a breakdown and explain.
Maybe even get an infographic made.
Yes, so hopefully we can sort of make that nice and clear for everyone and make it easier to follow along with what we're talking about.
Great. And so other news, Microsoft, although we don't have full details yet, but Microsoft announced last week that it looks like there might be some new Copilot products coming that'll be more tailored to small businesses, and first glance looks like they might end up being cheaper for us by embedding them inside of some of the other Microsoft products. But in true Microsoft fashion, no price is released yet. I think we're expecting a price update on the 1st of December. So when we have that information, we will share it with you.
Which incidentally is also the date that they are releasing the licenses, which makes it very helpful. Yeah. But as John said, I think we're hoping that they're going to be a bit cheaper and a bit more accessible for people, potentially even on a monthly basis, but we'll have to wait and see.
Okay. So moving on, this week was your choice of demos. I believe, James, you wanted to talk about how you've been using Copilot directly in Teams chats.
Yes, absolutely. So the first thing I just want to talk about is exactly what this is. So there is the ability now within Teams, within a conversation, to tag Copilot and give it a prompt. So it's a very, very simple procedure. We're going to run through. I've got some screenshots here. Let's just switch over and bring those up. So to tag Copilot in a Teams chat, all you have to do is type the @ symbol and then Copilot and hit enter. That will add Copilot to your conversation, and then anything you type after that tag becomes the prompt. So that's where you give Copilot the information or the action that you want it to complete. So at first, this seems like a solution without a problem. It's one of John's favourite sayings. But I've actually found it quite useful, and I've got a few use cases here, a few example prompts that we're just going to share with you. So this first one here just shows the kind of output that you get when you Copilot. So I put in the prompt and ask it to summarize all the messages from today and identify any outstanding actions. And it's just put the information directly into the chat. So you do need to obviously be aware that generally anything that you ask Copilot to respond to, or any outputs that Copilot creates, will be visible within the chat with the other person, or if it's a group chat with everybody in the chat. However, if you ask it to access certain documents or files or external sources that you've connected into Copilot, it will identify that and it will present the output to you first and ask you to approve it before you share it with the other people in that conversation.
I just want to jump in there as one that you mentioned about connecting to external data. A lot of people don't realise yet that there are ways you can bring in data from external sources into Copilot. So one of the great things with Copilot is that it will work with all the data inside your 365. That's the benefit of Copilot 365 versus Copilot Chat. But you can actually add in more data into the Microsoft Graph, as it's called. And we've done that with our knowledge base that we have about all of our clients and those sorts of things. And we bring all that data into Copilot so that people can question it and ask, and it can give answers based on that context. It does obey permissions. So whatever permissions people had in the external system will be followed through into Copilot.
Yeah, that's found one of the first integrations we did a little while ago, and actually it's proved quite useful because it enables the team to look things up using natural language. So if they've got a query about a specific client and their setup, or a specific process for a client, it can go away and find that information and surface it to them. And it provides the sources as well. So they can click on the source icon and it will take them to the relevant page in our knowledge base, so they can actually see the original article as well, which is really helpful.
Okay, sorry.
So yes, back to the prompts. So we've got an output there. And the next thing we were going to do is just show 3 example prompts that you could use. So as I said, I've spent quite a lot of time on Teams. We have external developers, and having communications with them across Teams means that we're often discussing issues or discussing solutions to various things throughout the day. So here's a couple of examples of things that I found it quite useful for. The first one is you can ask Copilot to summarize. all of the messages sent today and highlight anything important I may have missed. So that one can be quite useful for a group chat, for example. If all of your team are in a whole company group chat, or just your team is in a group chat, and perhaps you've been out of the office or you haven't had a chance to check your messages, rather than reading through everything, you could send it that prompt and it will just give you an output nice and easy. So you can highlight anything that's important. Obviously, just remember that that will be visible to everybody who's in the chat. The next one is based on the messages sent today about a particular topic. Can you create a summary and identify the agreed actions? So this is one I use quite often with regards to discussing issues or solutions with developers. We'll talk about how everything's set up, what potential solutions there could be. We'll come to an agreement and decide who's going to do what. That's all just obviously done in a lot of back and forth between myself and them. So being able to get Copilot to then summarize the previous messages and put it in a nice, easy to read format so we're all agreed on what needs to be done is really useful and saves a lot of time. And then the final one is perhaps you're having a conversation with a team member about a specific client or a project, and you can ask Copilot to give you the latest on that project or client from the conversation that you've had.
I think with some of these, you're playing it a bit safe as well, because all of these are about the current conversation you're in. However, Copilot has access to everything.
Yep.
So you could actually extend these prompts, not just look at your conversation, but also to look at your emails and your files and how they relate to that, and bring all of that context, all that data into the Teams conversation, or from an external system as well, which is great. I will admit, this is something that I haven't used very much, and I've just discovered it, and I can see a lot of benefits to it. Particularly, and we will show next time, is the little notes option that now appears in the Teams chats with people that I find incredibly helpful to keep a running commentary of notes and things, actions particularly. So I might bring that up in a future episode as well.
And that's where that approvals sort of process comes in. If you are accessing things outside of the conversation, Copilot will check if the other people in that conversation have access to those materials, whether they're internal or external, and if they don't, it will present the output to you and ask you whether you want to approve it and send it to everybody else in that conversation or not.
Okay, so that's all we've really got time for today. We wanted to cover, and it's been great coming back and trying to do this. We are going to get more efficient to it and try and get things better over the coming weeks, but do still send us comments, and if there's anything in particular you'd like us to talk about, then do let us know. Thank you very much.